Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to my studio. I'm Victoria Brown, I'm an artist and today I'm going to do a live stream for Artcore on painting, and we're going to be doing getting inspiration from India. This is the fifth video now we've done for Artcore, and we've been on a journey. I've shared with you my passion for blossom, for water, children's book illustration, agriculture and plants. So there's a whole range of them, and today is going to be focusing on my experiences and things that I've developed from my residency at Artcore in Derby. I had a residency there a couple of summers ago with Nikki Dennett as well, who's a printmaker, and we had a fabulous 8 weeks residency. It just felt like we'd been on a wonderful learning cultural holiday for 8 weeks, as well as doing a lot of work creating new work. So today I'm going to be showing you a few of the painting techniques I used, and also I'm going to be showing you some of my artwork. So we're going to be doing some painting, drawing and a little bit of collage, and I'll talk to you about the processes I used for my paintings. You can see a couple of the paintings I've got behind me. These are what I started with really. Initially, my initial proposal was to look at the textiles of India, because my family come from a textile heritage with the lace industry in the East Midlands, in Nottingham. And I did a big project on the lace industry a few years ago, but I've always absolutely loved fabrics from India and the Far East, and the gold, the richness of colours and all the different motifs and patterns, and it's something that's always really fascinated me. So I wanted to do this project starting with that really, and with these two big panels behind me, Nikki and I went and we purchased some fabrics from India, and I started off with these laces using gold and acrylic paint initially, and once I started painting the laces, I was actually drawn towards the flowers of India. At the same time, I was doing another project of my own, celebrating flowers and doing work with children about children's book illustration about the flower fairy projects. So I had a stand at Tatton Park, which is the Royal Horticultural Society show up near Cheshire. And with having a stand there, you're allowed in the grounds each morning before the public arrive. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go into these huge marquees full of flowers, and it was just heavenly. The scent was just gorgeous. And I started to ask the different nurseries and the different people that had got the knowledge about plants, which of the flowers originated from India. I wondered if that was a starting point of where I could take the project, and I found out that quite a lot of the flowers and plants that we have in this country actually originated from India, obviously because of British colonial rule, and quite a lot of the plants were actually I think basically stolen, I think maybe, and collected and brought to the UK. So probably a lot of the plants and the things that we have in the garden now would have actually originated from India. With this piece, I did 12 different flowers. If I show you, I could probably show you a little bit closer. I could give you a close-up. So some of them I can remember the names. So we've got the jasmine on this one here, and that is used I think a lot to celebrate weddings. It's got absolute gorgeous scent. And that one there I've painted is the star jasmine. I've bought one to put on the wall of our house. Hopefully it'll start flowering this year. We've got the lotus flower on there, which is actually, I found out, was the national flower of India. There's 29 states in India and 7 union territories, and I found out each one has a flower or a tree, an animal, and a fruit, and a bird as well. So that's something I didn't know. I didn't know there were all 29 states and 7 territories. This one here is the orchids. I've always had a passion for orchids, and I chose this one. This was actually in my studio. I've got a few in my collection, but I think there's quite a few that sort of come from the Himalayas, that area. This is the Himalayan blue poppy that grows in the mountainous regions of the Himalayas. I can't remember what all the others are. I'll have to look in my sketchbook and find out. So that was really combining the imagery of the symbols of the flowers and learning about them, and then also combining it with the textiles that I collected, finishing it with a few gold sequins that I loved in Indian textiles. So I also I thought about India. It became I felt quite humbled really, because it's such a massive continent and there's so much to learn, and I realised I knew so little and I didn't know quite where to go. I just felt like I was scratching the surface, just the tip of the iceberg. And then one day I was curious why I was painting on these long oblong shaped pieces of canvas, which I'd never really done before. And then when I was on my yoga mat one day, I realised that I was practicing yoga twice a week since I had a back operation. And I suddenly had the idea to paint my paintings on yoga mats, as that was part of my healing process and partly a spiritual experience really. I find being on the yoga mat, it's sort of bringing your mind and spirit together and trying to help you live and function and balance and harmony with your mind and body. So it was quite a revelation. And then I thought, well, maybe can I actually paint on yoga mats, because it's actually sort of the texture of sweet corn. It's like painting on sweet corn basically, and it had a pattern underneath. And so I got some special, it was Swiss lacquer, I think it's called, acrylic paints, which are quite fluid. And I found if I layered the paint layer after layer, then I could get these really bright, bold colours that I was seeing in the imagery from India. So I chose the first one to paint the lotus flower right in the centre of the yoga mat, as that was the national flower of India. And I also, when I was painting it, I found out that quite a few of the goddesses in the Hindu and Buddhist religion are found seated upon a lotus flower, and this is the goddess Lakshmi. I didn't intend to paint Lakshmi. I just felt, I painted that little lotus flower and felt that she needed to be seated upon it. So I painted her there with her little owl next to her, a white snowy owl I think it's called, and that's her vehicle. Each goddess has a vehicle to travel on. And it was interesting, one of the ladies at Artcore told me how her grandmother said she needed to clean her kitchen every night because if it's tidy, Lakshmi will come and bring good fortune and good blessings to the home. So I often think about that when I'm tidying my kitchen in the evening. So that's a wonderful thing about being at Artcore. You can meet people from so many different cultures and learn so many different stories without leaving this country, which is wonderful to see the richness of human beings and the richness of life. I love learning about people and about human connections. I also embellish some of the sort of sequins and embellishments that go onto garments and fabrics onto there. I sewed them on, and then this is the next one I did. I was interested in the shapes and the patterns on prayer mats, the roses, symbolism of roses and rose petals, and then some of the buildings and temples, and the paisley pattern that we often see in a lot of the Indian textiles. That led me to a story about Hanuman, the monkey god, who created a mango. So I think the paisley, the original source of that design, was actually from that story about the monkey god and creating the mango. So there's all sorts of stories to be unfolded. So within all 4 of the paintings, I try to incorporate all of the 29 state flowers plus 7 territory flowers. Some had the same ones, so that was my aim to do that. And then this is one of my peacock lace paintings that I expanded into a large, more abstract painting. This is with our oils, and this is with gold leaf and sequins. I love the colour of a peacock and the beautiful blues, so I enjoyed blending those and creating different shades and tones of blue. So yeah, so that's my paintings, and I thought I'd show you a little bit of the process of the paintings. So if I just turn this around, there we go. Sorry about this. There we go. I thought I would show you how I started off with a sampling technique, because I was doing something that I'd not actually done before, and I was experimenting with something new. That's the wonderful thing about doing a residency, is you give them the time to experiment and be playful and try out new ideas. I wasn't sure whether the yoga mat idea would work, so I got an old sort of ground mat and cut it up into lots of pieces and experimented with some collage. So you can see here I cut up a photograph. Luckily we've got a pond in the garden that has beautiful lotus flowers every year, so this is one of my photographs of the lotus flower. So I cut that out, put it in the middle, and then surrounded it with some patterns that I'd painted from the different textiles, added some textiles, some sequins, and really tried to be playful with it and see what happens. So I experimented with that one. That's the middle one. This one was the one with the paisley and the temple and the flowers, and this is the other one as well. So these are the initial sort of playful ideas about the imagery and how I was going to blend and sample all the different images I collected. Some were even from magazines, like I cut out all these roses and I even ripped some of them out and collaged them on to the mat. So it's a way of starting your paintings. Now, if it might be another topic or subject that you might be interested in, you want to learn, you want to create a painting about it. It might be a holiday that you've had last year, and you want to get your photographs out, start sketching, drawing your photos, cut some out. If there's any children, ask your parents first if it's okay to cut your old photographs out. But basically be playful and then create something like that, and then from that then you can do your painting on canvas. So I've got an easel here. I thought I'd just show you how that process can sort of work. So I'll put my easel up. There we go. Just started off, I've got some canvas here. These are actually canvas sheets. It comes in a really big roll, and this is basically the canvas that is painted on, then stretched over a wooden frame when you see paintings in galleries and in homes. So this is the brown side, is the side that hasn't been primed, it's not been finished, it's sort of a canvas or linen, and this side has been primed with paint, so you can buy it ready like this. So I've already started just by doing a little bit of a sketch, a little bit of a pattern. I was quite interested, I saw this in my sketchbook from last year. Every year I paint the lotus flowers that come out in the pond. I quite like the zigzagging of the reflection in the water. So I decided to paint a little bit of that and a little bit of the leaves that come over the top. I also looked at a piece of fabric that had been printed and just started drawing that print. So that's just a starting point. I found another picture of one of the lotus flowers, so I thought maybe I'd cut that out. I don't want all those leaves on there, so I'll just be bold and cut that out. So I'll do this quite quickly because I want to show you lots of other things as well, but just wanted you to get the idea of how you can build up these collages that can be a source of ideas for your paintings. So I quite like it like that, so I've cut it out. So play around with it. You know, I'd quite like that to go in the centre, I think, again. So I'm just going to put some glue on it. I've got some fabric glue because I'm going to be using on canvas, and it's with the fabric as well. So, but you can use PVA glue, it'll be fine for collaging. So I'm going to stick that in the middle, like that. Now I painted, I blew up quite a lot of the patterns, the textiles, and painted them at the beginning of the project. So I've used this as a source of collage. I often, if I'm not completely happy with paintings, I will often just rip them up and actually use them for collage for something else. So I quite like that little bit there. So I think I'm going to stick that somewhere around here. I think would be quite nice. So if I put some glue on that. Plenty of glue so it doesn't fall off. And then I think I'll tuck it under this flower here. We put it there somewhere. There we go, so they can overlap. Play about with them. So I quite like the yellow against the blue and then against the pink. It's really vibrant and cheerful, and the symbolism of a lotus flower is a very positive symbol about beauty and about heart and about mind. So I just wanted this to be cheerful. When we also did the residency, there was a big celebration in Derby, and we learnt a dance called the Garba, and it's an Indian dance that's done in lots of communities throughout India. And we all came, we had dance workshops for several weeks, and then came to the centre of Derby and all danced the Garba together, which was an amazing experience. I think it was my best night in Derby ever. So I've got, I found a nice picture here of some dancers. So I thought perhaps I would put that on there as memory of the dancing we did. I didn't quite look like that, not as elegant and beautiful, but I really enjoyed it. So even my husband got involved. He did the dancing as well, which was wonderful. So possibly I'll put the dancers down here somewhere. So I'll put a little bit more glue. I think it helps when you've actually experienced things as well, when you're actually putting them into your artwork and you're expressing the joy and the excitement you've had doing something or seeing something. So maybe put that down at the bottom there. And then what else can we put? Oh, I've got some beautiful, let's move that a little bit further over. The birds of India, the national birds of India, talked about earlier, and the state bird, the national bird of India is a peacock. Absolutely love the peacock feathers. So I'd like to put a peacock feather somewhere within this picture. I'm not sure exactly where, but we can play about with it. I'll just use the real thing at the moment, but I don't have to stick it on. I'll just do it with some tape because it's quite nice to have these as a resource to do some observational drawing when I'm doing my paintings and workshops. So if I just put the peacock feather there, I think that'd be quite a nice position for it. I've also got some beautiful patterns. I went to Warwick Castle, and at Warwick Castle we saw these beautiful peacocks. So I took some photos of those and just got a real close-up of the actual patterns on the feathers. So just that copied onto a background would be wonderful. Just trying to copy those colours, and the iridescence of that blue is really, it's quite a challenge to get within your painting, but it's quite exciting. So maybe you could use something like that. I've also, when I was at Artcore for the residency, we, as part of the celebrations, we had our hands painted with henna, which is the first time I'd ever had it done. Henna is created from a tree, and it's mixed with oils and herbs, I think, and it's drawn onto the hands or feet to create these mendi, which are actually mostly used for wedding ceremonies, wedding celebrations for the men and for the women. Lots of beautiful different patterns. Quite often there's a paisley pattern in there, there's flowers, all sorts of patterns. So that was a memory that I had. So I'd quite like to have that somewhere on there too. So maybe down by that corner I could put it. So you can gradually see how you get your picture building up. So I'll pop that there. So you are the artist. You can actually do exactly what you want with your painting. So I could put some more patterns into here. So we could put some little patterns into here, get a bit more detail. I could put some little paisley shapes in there as well. I'm using a permanent marker here. There we go. Do some little patterns around it. So if you look carefully at these different mendi patterns, it's just gradually building up layer upon layer of lines, different lines and symbols. So you can really recreate those. Then we've got little areas where you could actually use some paints. So if I get some colours, I think we'll put a little bit more of the watercolour behind there. So I'll just paint between there. And then you could sort of merge one area into another with the paints. You could actually add patterns, anything you like really. Just gradually building up, just like so. How's that going? So I think that's sort of, hopefully you've got the idea of how you can build this up. I think we could probably put something along this middle area here. I've got a basket full of lots of bits of textiles, some sparkle sequins and things. I've got a lovely box here of beads as well. So something like that we could stick on in the middle. So I quite like that little bit of purple fabric. I think that could just go across there somewhere. So I'll put some glue on that. There we go. Put that across there. There we go. Nice bit of textiles in there. That's got the paisley pattern on it, and then we can use some of the sequins as well, just to put the sequins, maybe a little bit of sequins in the water. So probably easier to just put the glue onto the picture. We'll have some sequins coming out of there. If I get some sequins, not sure whether it's, I have to have a very steady hand with sequins. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I need one more. Another one there. So there's a little bit of white still there on the page, on the canvas, that I could just cover up. You know, see that little bit. Once you start, you just can't stop. I think I'm going to put a lovely, get some yellow paint, and I've got some red on my palette, so I'm going to add that together to make a nice orange, and paint the bottom corner a nice yellowy orange. So I can actually paint over the tape as well, because remember, this is just playful, just experimental work, so it doesn't really matter. But sometimes when you actually give yourself the freedom to do something as playful as that, you're often just you can be happier with the results than you can when you approach the canvas more seriously. So allow your childlike spirit to play with something, with a subject that's close to your heart. So that's finished now. If I show you that a bit closer, let's have a look, see if you can see that. So we've got a mixture of patterns and images, photographs, so you can add your sketches as well. So what you can then do is start to practice drawing some of these things that you've been drawn towards. So practice drawing and painting a lotus flower, practice drawing and painting the peacock feather, and maybe practice doing some of the Mendi patterns and the henna tattoo, and maybe try and do some figure drawing, practicing drawing the figures that are dancing there. So, and also take a look really closely at some textile patterns as well, and see what you can do with that. So this is just a starting point for a finished piece of work. You can add words to this, so it might be experiences, feelings, memories that you could add to this as well. So there's all sorts of possibilities. So what I'm going to show you now is how to actually attempt drawing and painting a lotus flower from scratch. Now it does help if you can observe things closely first, and that's what I managed to do, because I was lucky enough to have inherited a pond in our garden where the lotus flower every year. So if I show you some more of my sketches, and these are the ones I did during the residency, I mean, some of these just aren't perfect. It's like sometimes I find with flowers, they're just so perfect. It's just how can you ever recreate their beauty and do them justice. So these are some of the photographs I took and made a collage in my sketchbook. And then there's some here But I've done the whole pond, the huge leaves that float on the pond. I think that they're so special as a symbolism of goodness and enlightenment and hope, is because they start in the muddy, murky waters, and then they rise above the muddy waters and shine so beautifully with purity above the surface. And when I do yoga, we do the lotus pose, is when we're meditating as well. So it has all sorts of symbolism and meaning. But when you actually look at them and their beauty, they're absolutely gorgeous. So just trying to get that shape, the initial shape. It's easier if you look at the lotus flower from the side rather than the top. I've got a piece of canvas here, so hopefully I'll show you I've got a Sharpie pen again, so hopefully you'll be able to see a bit more closely. So I'm sketched out roughly here how to actually do a lotus flower. So I'll start drawing it out for you. So start off very first of all with a teardrop shape in the middle. So there's a teardrop shape, and then add the petals either side of it. So you sort of tip over like this and connect with the bottom. And the other side, get a curl and down. And then when you won't see them, they're just, the petals just overlap each other. So I've just recently finished a series of paintings called my chakra paintings, where that was another project that really led on from celebrating India. I learnt about the 7 chakras, and the highest chakra, the crown chakra, is a 1,000-petaled lotus. So I had to paint a 1,000-petal lotus, which wasn't easy, but what I did was I made sure I had at least one petal, one brush stroke for each lotus flower, and in the end I tallied it 100 at a time, so I managed to have at least 1,000 petals on there, because I thought it was important to include it. So we've got a little bit of a stem rising out of the water as well, so that's really the basic shape. You can add lots more petals. I can add the little stamens here. I think that's what you call them, as well, because the centre of them is full of them, so we can add a few of those as well. So you've roughly got the lotus flower. So then I'm going to get my palette, and on my palette I've got some magenta red. This is permanent magenta. This is acrylic paint. This is a Winsor & Newton one. So I'll put a little bit more on there, and I've got a nice big blob of white paint as well. So we'll just combine those two. Let's see if I can get a good clean. Now I've got water in a pot here. A key to really having nice colours, clean colours, is to always have clean water if you can. I like to have a jam jar because it makes a nice ring and it doesn't fall over too easily either. So if we get some of the white paint on the inside of the brush, and then pick up a little bit of the magenta on the outside like that, then hopefully we'll get some of the shading down like this. So I'm going to add a little bit more white now to the centre of it. So if you put lighter white in the centre of the petal, then it makes it look 3D. So if you've got the darker colour on the outside and then gently blend the lighter colour in the middle, then you get this nice subtle shade of pink. I'm going to go over that again. It's a little bit too dark. I can put a little bit more on, and then just really stroke the page with your brush, just blending the colours together. You can keep applying it, reapplying. There we go. That's it. So then we can do the rest the same way, some darker colour on the outside. This is actually a piece of canvas, so with the canvas it's quite nice because it does pick up some of the texture, and you can use more water if you want to make it flow more smoothly, or you can use it thicker to pick up the texture of the paper. So it will be a little bit whiter, maybe that bit there. You want to make sure you have a contrast between each of the petals, so you know this one is overlapping the other one. So work with that and be playful with it. I want to really hide these black lines because I wouldn't usually use a black felt tip with my paintings. It's just to try and help you see. So carry on doing that. The outside edge darker on all of them. Do that one as well. A little bit more water on there before I put it in the white paint, and then blend it. You can use your finger as well if you want to blend the colours and draw the paint down. Don't want to go too much over these little stains that are going to pop up. I want to be able to see them so I can paint them yellow. So we can go over there. Don't have to use your finger, but I quite like to blend. If I really want to get the colours smoothly blended together, then it's a great way of working. Okay. What's that? So we'll do this outside petal as well. That one, it's curling up a little bit. We can stroke down the paint and blend it. So it might take quite a long time to perfect this. You know, you could spend hours on it if you wanted to. Sometimes when I think a painting's finished, I'll go away and come back to it, and you can see subtle things that need changing or adding. You generally get a feel when you've got something how you want it to be. Remember, it's your artwork. It's about pleasing yourself. It doesn't have to be what other people want. It's actually what pleases you. So it's really making yourself happy and making your own heart sing with the work that you do. Put a little bit of that there. So we can see that gradually you can actually make the flower look 3D. I've made that a little bit too light, so I'm going to make it darker. There we go. So we probably need a little bit darker colour down here as well. So that's the inside of the flower, so they will be shaped, they will sort of be concave. There you go. So now I can add some of the yellow for the little stamens. Let's find a finer brush. Always think about the different size brushes you use. Here's a nice little fine one to put that detail, and leave a little bit of water on my brush as well. So I'll put a little bit of yellow here. So if you dip it in water and then blend the paint with the water, so a little bit of yellow, a little bit of orange there, and then it's ready to put on the painting. So some tiny little bits of detail. There we go. And we need a little bit of black. So just a little bit of black for the, and mix it with a little bit of the green maybe. There we go. Get a nice dark green. And just put those in as well. That's it. And then we'll get some green for the stem as well. I think it's actually dried up. I need to get some more now. Thing is, it's an advantage sometimes that acrylic paint does dry quickly, but it's just best to put a little bit on your palette and try not to waste it, because it does dry up fairly quickly. With oil paints you've got a lot longer, it does take a lot longer to dry up. So here's the stem. Make sure that one side is darker than the other to make it look 3D. So I think that's roughly with there. Probably needs a little bit more white in there. I'll apply my white with quite a dry brush. You can use a piece of tissue. I've got a piece of tissue here if your brush is too wet, just to dry it off. And I think it needs a little bit whiter colour here to make it look more 3D. But you'll play about with it yourself. A bit more there. So there we go. That's basically how you can start painting a lotus flower anyway. So then you could use some of your water techniques that we looked at a few weeks ago, and then we can you make it your own, or you could actually cut this out and put it into your collage final painting if you wanted to. So I've got some more of the pictures that I could actually use from my previous sketches from the summer. I could actually use these different sketches for my paintings this year if I wanted to. There we go. So I think the good thing with sketchbooks is you've always got, it's just a quick little sketch. And I have more recently, when I do take my sketchbooks out away, I do actually do a quick permanent marker pen sketch, and then it's like creating my own sketchbook. I'll come home and colour it in the evening if we're sat watching television or something. It's quite a nice way of just gathering some images and colours and being playful. So yeah, you can just use a sketchbook as observations as well. With the peacock design, if you wanted to start painting the peacock, like there's some really lovely paintings on the pictures on the internet. You could maybe get one of those printed off. I've had a go here with a sketch of a bird, just one of those in my workshops. Just played about painting the peacock, and then having a go at painting the feather as well. So maybe that's something that you could try and do. I think I just bought the peacock feather from the range. You can buy them in crafters packs. but it's really nice to have natural things to use as a starting point to paint and draw. It's really good practice to focus your eye on the things, the colours and the lines and the textures, and try and recreate those. So you could have a go at that. The other thing that you could possibly do is to look at the different henna patterns and create your own mehndi patterns. I've had a go here at creating one of the patterns. When I actually did the residency at Artcore, as I said, I had my first painting done, and it was just a lovely experience. I think I've got it in my sketchbook actually here. I can show you if I can find it. And these ladies are incredibly talented, and with practice. This is my very first one there. So I took photographs of my henna pattern, and then I painted it into the sketchbook, and you can still see some of the bits of henna that I put into the sketchbook, just to keep that memory very clear. So if you look on the internet, you can actually see many different types of mehndi patterns, henna patterns that you could copy or use as an inspiration for your design. So have a look at that. One way of doing it is to actually draw around your hand first of all, like that. So have a go at drawing. Take the lotus flower down a minute. Oh, I forgot to show you, that was one that was a lotus flower just painted by the pond. It's actually not as easy to do sketching and painting outside. It was the Impressionists at first did en plein air painting, because you have to have a basket, have all your things around you, find somewhere to balance carefully, or an easel. You've got the elements to battle with, the weather and everything. But this was quite a nice little quick sketch that I did just right by the pond, so I can use that for reference for something else. So yeah, so if you get a picture, just put your hand on a piece of paper. I think you can't see, but I put my hand on that paper and then I drew around it, and then you can gradually build up some of the patterns yourself. So I will have a go at showing you. The hen is actually brown, different shades of red, so it's not actually black. I think the artificial ones are black. You have to be very wary of those because I think they can make you quite poorly. I think people can have allergic reactions from them. So if I have a go, oh dear, I think some girls would have a laugh at me having a go at these, but I can't do it sideways very easily. But if you just get the basic shapes and just keep adding to the pattern. Some beautiful floral shapes as well. So we've got some of the designs, do a flower here. And one part of the pattern sort of joins onto the other. So have a go at doing your own design. It's like a little piping bag the henna is put onto the skin. And then a lot of the flowers sort of down the fingers as well, and then travel up different swirls and patterns. So you could go on all day with those, and there's a lot more people that are a lot more experienced at doing than I am, but it's quite fun to have a go. So maybe it's something you could look at the rest of the day. And then these could be used in your collages, and maybe go on to paint some of this within your final painting. So I hope we've given you some inspiration today of how to go about being open, looking into a project, learning by going to museums, by reading books. At the moment during lockdown we can actually do research with the internet and with books and things around our home. We can talk to people about their experiences. We can look at photographs of places we've been. So you can choose your own subject, and then go into the artistic process, allow yourself to be an artist and to explore, do sketches, little drawings, cut out photographs, do things that you feel you're comfortable with. Don't worry about doing it wrong, just be playful. I don't know if anybody's watched the Grace and Perry programme, the Art Club, at the moment on a Monday, and he's saying that art doesn't have to be good, just do it, just enjoy it, and it's a journey really. So you don't need special paints or things, just crayons and pencils would be fine, and any felt tips, and you go around the house, look for scraps of paper that you might use, or fabrics from old textile projects. So just use the resources you've got, because quite often the things you've got around you you can be more playful with, and you're recycling at the end of the day and creating something beautiful out of something that would usually be thrown away. So I hope you've enjoyed this session today. Please send any photographs of the artwork you've done to Artcore. We'd love to see them. And please send any questions or comments, and I'd be happy to answer them. So I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.